Frickin' laser beams.
Frickin' laser beams on sharks' heads, man.
Can we say that?
No.
Frickin'?
Frickin'?
We can say frickin'. Yeah.
I don't know. Frickin' seems like... I mean, you are substituting it, and we're obviously not going to say the real word. I don't want my kids to say frickin', but
Really?
I want to say frickin'.
Really?
No, because I feel like it's a gateway drug.
I think this is part of where your childhood it's looping back around. You know?
I am Marty.
Ryan's not wrong.
I am Marty. I am Marty, the cussing pastor. Welcome to the Chaffin Church podcast.
Hey, everybody.
My name is Marty Holman. This is Ryan Thompson, and this right here is David Huey. I'm going to introduce him in just a second, but before I do, please check out all of our podcasts. They're great. I think they're great, at least the ones that I'm a part of.
You're a little biased, though. Just a little bit.
It's true, I am, totally. There's like massive amounts of thunder, or the Russians are finally going to conquer us outside.
It's true.
Or the Swedish. Maybe it's the Swedish that are coming after us. So, anyways, we're a minute and 20 into it, and we really haven't said anything. Please subscribe. Please subscribe to
Rate and review.
Subscribe, rate, and review to our podcast, Spotify. Where are the other places?
But if you are on Spotify, I would like to say
Apple.
you can neither. Well, you cannot review. Okay.
Right.
So you can't leave a comment. So don't sit there scratching your head like, hey, they said rate and review on Spotify.
But on Spotify, you will follow.
Yes, you will follow, and you can, I believe, rate now. Is that true? I think you can rate now 1 to 5 stars or whatever, so please do that.
And of course, on YouTube, we'd love it if you could join the conversation and feel free to comment.
Yeah, you can do all 3 of those things on YouTube, which is nice.
Yeah.
So you can no longer dislike.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
There's a reason why he knows about it, why you can't. Well, you can't dislike.
Do we need to hear this story on
that's
the
fine.
podcast?
It's not that important.
I want to talk. We'll talk about this in a second. Okay. This is Dave Huey. Dave
Hey, everybody.
has been at the church via video.
Yeah.
Last summer, fall.
That's right.
Forgot
Last summer.
about that. Yeah, that was
Kind of mid-pandemic.
Yeah, mid-pandemic and in the intensity of things. And Dave has been a friend of mine since college, the summer of 1995.
That's right.
You were playing poker the first time I met you, actually.
Sounds right.
And with Craig Kistler.
Yeah.
And I came in and I met you guys, and I was...
It's like the beginning of a Bond movie, man.
You know, it may have been Rook because we were at a Christian college, and I don't know if poker was allowed.
Oh, okay. I never played either at Pensacola. I just
Yeah.
remember you playing cards.
It was, kind of, you know how we started this podcast with Frickin'?
Yes.
It was kind of like, you couldn't have poker, but you can play another card game that's not as evil.
Yeah. Right. So we were playing Go Fish in the, or they were playing
In the
it.
student center or wherever we were.
Yeah. And our friendship blossomed.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't really mean to say it that way, but it is what it is.
It's ominous.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys are hearing this right now, but it is, there is some
There's a lot of
serious
thunder.
a
going
lot of
on.
thunder.
Yeah.
Which brings me to that band, Thunder. Hear the thunder. Lightning and the thunder.
I don't know what that is.
Come on! Seriously?
I don't.
Yes, I've heard the song.
No, tell me quickly, the band. What's the band's
I don't
name?
know what band it is. Right?
It was the same band that was big.
Oh, it's Imagine Dragons.
Imagine
Yeah.
Dragons, thank you. Okay.
At first, I thought you were going with AC/DC, though.
Like Thunderstruck. That would have been much more appropriate.
Thunder. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I'm pretty lame. Then we're back. Anyway, so I met Dave for years, and he's here to share a little bit about Hungry for a Day, which is a fantastic nonprofit organization. This is Generosity Weekend here at Chaffin Church, and so he is going to play a part of that, and thankfully you're here.
Yeah, so good to be here. Thanks for having me on the pod. And
First time on the podcast.
First time on the podcast, and I'm happy to get into what we're going to talk about.
Episodes.
Yeah, I've listened to a handful of them. Not all of them, but I've listened to a handful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and give him the constructive criticism you were
We'll take that conversation offline.
Okay. Yes. Anyways, so I wanted to ask you guys, you know, you guys are into the Christian culture scene, and both of you have been in for a while. You've been in seminary, you went to Bible college, and I wanted to ask you guys, who is your favorite pastor besides myself? I had to say that because it's an important point. I just don't want you to throw out the Marty. You know what I mean?
Right.
Who is your favorite pastor? Online, or maybe YouTube, or maybe they've been your pastor before it.
And we were talking, are we leaning more towards like content creator pastors, like that kind of level of things?
I am not leaning towards anything. I am just asking the question and allowing you to answer however you may.
I mean, I think it would be hard to find any pastor who has impacted me more than either Andy Stanley or Rob Bell. I think those are like the two, in terms of like reading their books and just growing spiritually, but also as a leader. Those two guys really stand out. And even though I've never met, I did shake Rob Bell's hand one time in Boston, but other than that, I've never really like spent time with them. But just through reading their books and listening to their podcasts and seeing them speak at different places, I feel like they have mentored me more than most other leaders in my life.
Now, when you shook his hand, did you shiver with tears of joy?
I did not, although a mutual friend of ours has a really funny story that is totally a lie, that he hugged Rob Bell and the hug lingered. And me and a couple other guys were trying to ask him, like, what do you mean? And he was really stringing it out, and at the end he was like, yeah, I just made this all up.
Oh, man. Did you say, hey, listen, friend, you're so going to hell?
Yes.
Or not?
That is what I said.
A little theology joke.
There you go.
Or
There
not.
you go.
All right, Dave. What about you? Somebody good.
I don't know if I have a great person. Someone I've been following recently. This guy's name is Dustin Benge, and he's at a seminary in Wales.
Ooh.
And one thing I love about when he talks on social media, he talks about kind of reclaiming social media for good.
Okay.
And using that as a way to, because so many people like myself, we'll get on here, we'll run our mouths about politics or sports or current events or what makes us mad. And he's about just sharing his faith and talking about what's important in life. And I'm not saying that that's what I do, but it's been a good influence on me to kind of think twice.
And what is something that he has? What is one specific thing that you have changed as a result of his teaching? Or want to change?
I think what I should say that I want to change. It's just, I think a lot of times we talk about what we should be doing, like we should be sharing our faith, right? But we don't necessarily do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I want to do more of.
Okay.
Kind of based on that, where we let everything becomes this, on social media and online becomes this sort of cesspool of all what's going on and the good and the bad and it's just, and I think what I've learned from him is like, we can reclaim that and use that as a way to impact the world in a positive manner.
Cool. That's
Sure.
awesome. All right. Well, as we said before, so because of the way you said that, I am not going to go into why Google erased the theories around why Google erased their dislike
Well,
button.
what about you? What?
Oh,
yeah,
I should answer the
did not
question.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
You're a big Andy Stanley fan.
You know what, Andy? I would say it would be a clash, like you said, two people. It probably would be a clash between Andy and Tom. N.T. Wright.
Oh yes.
And
that
Tom, he's an Anglican,
Yeah.
was an Anglican priest in England, and now he's a professor. He was the Archbishop of Canterbury, as it were, which historically has been one of the big European church offices. And so, but he's a prolific writer. I really credit him for saving a good bit of my faith, actually, during times in which I was perhaps deconstructing in certain ways. I read him, and he had questions. He had answers to questions I had, which nobody else was really answering. And I think that's really important because, not that sometimes he admits readily that he's wrong, and that's great and important too. But those two guys, Andy Stanley, who doesn't get more practical, doesn't get more like simple, and yet really, really creative, and connect that with N.T. Wright. So I highly suggest both of those two.
Yeah.
My favorite book, Andy Stanley's book, is probably Deep and Wide.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's probably my favorite of his as well.
Yeah, maybe Communicating for a Change is right up there. I probably use that more than anything else.
Choosing to Cheat.
That's a good one.
It's a
good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Choosing to Cheat is really good. And then N.T. Wright, I don't know what my favorite book is, but...
So you're asking us this question. Do you have a reason that you asked us this? Or is this a segue?
It's just, I
Good
usually
conversation
ask
starter.
to get the conversation moving, a fun question.
Yeah, I like it. Okay.
And doggone it, that was it.
That was it. We did it.
We did it.
That's great.
All right.
So if you're not following N.T. Wright, Dustin Benge, Andy Stanley, there's some good follows.
Andy Stanley got 2 mentions, so really,
that's
he
kind of wins.
Sounds like that's the winner.
I did meet him once. I met him in the form of asking him a question. I was in Atlanta. I probably saw you during that time. And I was with my pastor at the time. His name was Lonnie Snell. And we were at the Q conference. And
that is a really expensive conference, by the way.
Well, it was probably the most expensive conference we've ever been to. And that was years ago. I think it's still going on.
Right.
And I was there, and they had us ask him questions. I raised my hand, and they picked me immediately. And I was like, "What books are you reading?" That's it. And I didn't think they were going to pick me, so I was just raising my hand because.
Then you got to come up with a question really quick.
Yeah, and so I was asked what book he was reading, and he said, Sticky.
Yeah, by Dan and Chip Heath.
That one, I think. What was it called? Sticky, not Sticky Church.
It's just Sticky. It's Dan and Chip Heath, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one.
It's more of a business book.
Yeah, it was more of a, he was going through it with his,
Yeah.
Right. Great book, and it was how to make things memorable essentially. Yeah. And it was great. So thanks, Andy, for, first of all, watching this, and second of all, connecting with Hungry for a Day from Atlanta.
There you go.
I know he's a big viewer of this podcast.
That's right.
All right, so this is Generosity Weekend here at Chaffin Church, and excited about it. We had, actually I have the numbers I'll share with you. We had today, that's the wrong ones. I want to make sure I get it right. 483 pounds of food.
That's awesome.
Given to Chaffin Church today, right here in the parking lot. 103 coats. And this is a record because we've never had it before. 10 pounds of toiletries, which
that's like toothpaste and deodorant.
Yeah, that's like somebody just brought it in. That we didn't ask for it. It wasn't a food coat and toiletry drive, but whatever. Somebody brought it in. So thank you to those in our community who brought those things. We're excited about that. And then today, when you're watching this, you can still have time to bring frozen turkeys into. We'll have a van from the Friendly House here, and on Sunday from 8 to noon, and we're excited about that, the opportunity to give frozen turkeys to the Friendly House. And so, I look at you, Dave, as someone who is very generous, okay? You think that's intentional in your life?
It is intentional.
Yeah?
I think it's thinking about like how I've been blessed, right?
Yeah.
And you gave me the questions ahead of time, so I'm going to flow this one right into the next one, right?
Okay.
Is that fair? So I think when I think about generosity, it's I've been blessed, and I want to be able to bless somebody else with that, the way I've been blessed, right?
Yeah.
And like I don't want to be this greedy person that's like, well, God's given me these things, or whatever your outlook is. Like I've worked hard or whatever for this. It's now that I've been blessed, like how can I impact somebody else's life with this? And I don't want to be the kind of guy that just takes what I've been given and just hoards it. The next question you're going to ask, if I remember this right, is about starting Hungry for a Day.
Yeah.
And so let's all go back and tell you, that's why I'm flowing these two into each other, because they run back to back.
There's one question first.
Okay, let's get to that one.
Is there a time specifically that your generosity, I know you don't, as a person who's humble, you don't want to be like, oh, I'm so generous. But was there a time, were you always generous, like that gifting, or was there a time like that, a message at Pensacola, or like during chapel?
I think, I don't think it was a message or somebody like talking about a truth, right? It was more that I saw generosity in action and it impacted me, right? And it was little things like, you'd be, when I was young, I didn't have a lot of money.
Okay.
And so, for example, like when I'd go out to eat with my buddies, it'd be like, let's say they gave the check to one person, I'd be like, well, you owe me $7.42, right? Because like I worked hard for my money.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, hey, everybody's got to pay up. Or like, hey, we're all going, you're at college and you're driving down the beach. Like, hey, everybody throw in $4 gas money.
Yep.
Right? Like we're just going to split this up. But I saw a few times, and it really started in college, going out to eat with somebody like, hey, I got the tab. And I was like, what do I owe you? And they're like, no, it's on me. I just want to, I want to bless you.
Wow.
Maybe my parents gave me some money, or my grandma gave me some money for my birthday, and like, hey, I just want to treat some people. And I was like, that's a totally different way of looking at life than I ever had. And then you think about that, right? And this is I was going to say not to get too spiritual, but really is a spiritual thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, you think about what God has done for us. And, when he's given his son to us as a way for us to have salvation, it's just kind of like, and then I'm going to be greedy. Like, I don't have anything in my life that I have that isn't because of God's blessing. Whether it's the air I breathe, or the food I eat, or the place that I live, or the car that I drive in, right? I have none of that. It's not because of me, because I'm going to go out and I'm a great, person. It's because God's blessed me. And I want to make sure that I'm living my life with open hands, just like God has done for me.
And is that something that, and I think I know this answer, but I'm going to ask you, is that something that you and your wife live out, or is that kind of a Dave thing, or?
I think it's a little more me than her.
Okay, that's fair.
I think that's,
She's like the practical one.
Yeah, she's practical. She's the one that,
she's the reason why you have money.
She's the reason we have money, because she's like, you do have to save, and we should put some money towards retirement, and maybe like one day, because if not, I'm going to spend all my money on, sneakers, or going out to, the Braves game or something like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, we have to put this back.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, it was great.
I know I've said that before, but the Braves
won the World Series this year. I got to be there, which was incredible.
Yeah.
And so I was there. I was a few rows off of, I was about 5 rows behind third base. When the final out happened, the Braves won the World Series. It was pretty incredible. And but it's because of people like my wife who are like, you have to save money. Because if I wouldn't, then I would like, hey, now you come to an event like this, now I have no money because I bought, sneakers or whatever last week, right? So yeah.
All right, and so that led you, of course, as years went on, to start Hungry for a Day.
Yeah.
Why did you start Hungry for a Day?
So let me go back just a little bit further before that, right?
Okay.
So when me and my wife first got married.
Okay. November 2008.
9.
7. 9.
9.
Okay.
November 2009. We had a lot of debt. And when I say we had a lot of debt, I mean me. But it was now became we once we got married, right?
Yeah.
And I had never traveled internationally before. She was like, you need to get a passport. I was like, 4. She's like, we're going to go on a honeymoon. So we went to the islands, had a beautiful honeymoon.
Okay.
Loved our time there. On the way back, I was like, man, where are we going to go next? We went to Antigua. I was like, I'm already researching. Are we going to the Dominican? Are we going to go to Mexico? What are we doing next?
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't think we should go on vacation again. I was like, I'm sorry? And she's like, at least until we get out of debt. And I was like, okay.
You're like, just kidding.
And, one of the things that she challenged me on, she was like, I know that you like living generously. Like, you like to be that guy that'll pick up the tab at the restaurant. You're the one that, like, when you hear of a need, you want to be able to, hey, I want to buy this family some groceries, or this couple needs a new stove, or whatever it may be. And she's like, if you don't have your finances in order, you're not going to be able to help other people when that comes down. She's like, because I'm going to tell you no when you want to buy something for something, because you have credit card debt. And you owe money on your car. So she's like, so she challenged me in a way that impacted me, right? Because like I do want to live generously, and she's like, I'm okay with living generously once you get your personal financial house in order.
Wow.
So we did.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we had a plan to get out of debt in 24 months. We did it in 9.
9 months.
Yeah, we got really serious about it. And I think when you make the right decisions, the way that God wants you to make them financially, I think He blesses you.
Okay. And so along the way, you're like, I'm gonna start Hungry for a Day.
Yeah. So it was a couple years after we got married.
Yeah.
We got out of debt. We were back to going on nice vacations again.
Awesome.
We were saving money for retirement. We were involved in our church. Like we would serve at church. We'd be greeters at the door, welcoming people into church. We would give. We tithe towards our church. But I had this kind of in the back of my mind, this sort of like, what am I doing that actually matters? And I really had this, this idea of living generously. Like just as I've been blessed, I want to be able to bless other people. And so, we talked about me and a friend who like both started Hungry for a Day together. He's no longer with Hungry for a Day, great guy. But we had talked about kind of trying to start something, and that impacted other people. And let's go back to my wife again, right? She was like, what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to start a nonprofit just so you and your buddies can go hang out once a year and have a board meeting and, act like you're doing something good. She goes, because like, we can just write a check to somebody if that's
like
all you want to do.
the retired guy who starts a pizza shop.
That's right.
Goes and smokes cigars with his friends.
That's right. I mean, that's kind of one of my dreams. Like, I'd love to start a barbecue joint, and I'm open once a month or something. Like, the first Saturday of every month.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's not to really make money. It's just because you want to have fun. And she was like, I don't want your nonprofit to turn into this. To where it's just you and she's like, but if you can actually start something that inspires other people to be generous, then like, go for it.
Okay.
So we started Hungry for a Day.
Okay, and so what is the intentional plan, purpose of Hungry for a Day?
Yeah,
What do you do?
So the idea behind Hungry for a Day is inspiring generosity around hunger-related causes.
Okay.
So we want what we found out is there's a lot of great organizations out there. We're talking, homeless missions, like in a downtown area. It's food pantries out in, rural communities. It is, soup kitchens. It's people that are just really struggling on a day-to-day basis. And these organizations have found people that need help. The problem is funding. And so we decided years ago, like, we're not going to have warehouses and trucks and freezers and all this kind of stuff. But like, can we tell the stories of organizations that are doing a really good job and help them with funding?
Wow.
So that's, to re-answer your question, now it makes a little more sense. We want to inspire generosity around hunger-related causes.
Okay, and so how much generosity have you inspired? Do you have any numbers on that?
Yeah,
Since,
so
2011 to 12.
Yes, we've been around, right? Just a little over 10 years now.
Okay.
We fed literally hundreds of thousands of people. Our big project that we do every year is a Thanksgiving project, which is what we're doing here with Chaffin Church.
Yeah.
Last year we crossed the mark. Over the last 9 years, we've fed over 125,000 people a Thanksgiving meal as a result of what started. So it got started. We do lots of projects. Like this year, for example, we had a project where we helped a food pantry get a new freezer. They didn't have a freezer for storing their stuff, so they were having to they're putting it into their volunteers' fridges and freezers, and recollecting it every Thursday before they went and distributed it to the homeless and to the people that needed the food, right?
Yeah.
So we're like, let's just get you guys a freezer. So we're able to do that, right? So that's the kind of project that Hungry for a Day will get behind. Like, here's somebody doing some amazing work that they just need a little extra help. They need a boost, right?
Yeah.
So we do projects like that throughout the year. We helped urban gardens this year. So these are gardens. It was in my hometown of Atlanta. We found 4 different urban gardens that are growing food like in downtown areas, so they can help feed their neighborhood and go into these, what we call food deserts. A food desert is an area that may be 3 to 5 miles from a grocery store. It's the only place people in those areas can get food is like a convenience store. And what's at a convenience store? What's the stuff we love eating? It's Fritos and soda.
Yeah.
But can you go get some fresh vegetables or some meat or anything, or some milk that your family can use? Like maybe a gallon of milk, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And so
it's going to be way more expensive.
It's way more expensive. It's not nutritious. So we found 4 gardens that we were able to help and help them be able to feed their community. So we funded that. So that's Hungry for a Day.
Wow.
So that's throughout the year. About 10 years ago, a mutual friend of ours, Tim Payne, who is a pastor in the Pensacola, Florida area, came to us and he said, hey, we're pretty good at getting people to come to church. We're not so good at helping our community. Now, I will say that his church, Momentum Church, is phenomenal in what they do for their community now. But back then, they're like, we're trying to figure this out. They're like, can you help us out? We want to do something around Thanksgiving. Our goal our first year was to provide 40 families a Thanksgiving meal.
Okay.
First year, we fed 55 families a Thanksgiving meal. We came back the next year, we fed about 100, a little over 100. And it's grown from there. Then what we call our faith partners, other churches started getting involved, like Chaffin Church, for example. This year we have over a dozen faith partners. We have corporate partners where we go into a business and we connect them with a local recipient, someone that's meeting needs of the hungry, of the people that need help in their actual community. And so business can be like, hey, we're not just about going out and making a lot of money, but we actually want to impact the community that we live in. So we set up a program that allows their employees to give back and impact the community that they live in. And so as a result of, so we have three groups of people that we have: our faith partners that I mentioned, our corporate partners, then we have, I just call it our Hungry for a Day community. That's people that are following along, they're getting our email newsletter, they're following us on social media.
Yeah.
So it's Hungry for a Day on all the social media channels. We're on Twitter and Facebook and what else do people, Instagram. We're not on TikTok, I'm not that cool. I hear that's the trend, but I don't know anything about it.
Ryan is not on any social media.
Yeah, Ryan's probably, me personally, I'm on Instagram and that's it.
Twitter.
I do Twitter. Yeah. That's the one that I said I need to. I'm working on.
All right. So this is we're coming up toward Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Or what I call extended Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
what?
Goodness. Buddy the Elf.
What do you think? Why do you think people...
Should we talk about extended Christmas first?
No, let's not.
Oh, I think we should.
We're going to take a brief break and talk
so
about
Dave,
extended
you have
Christmas.
known Marty a lot longer than I have.
Yeah.
How many years has it been since you've known Marty?
I mean, I've known Marty for over 25 years now.
Okay, over 25 years. Okay.
We're talking about
so you have known Marty longer than the movie Elf has been out.
Yes.
Okay, but one thing that I have said consistently on this podcast, and I intend to continue saying, is that if Buddy the Elf were a pastor, it
would be Marty Holman.
That would be Marty Holman. And do you think that is
I think that's fair.
Would you have said that's true before Buddy the Elf?
Well, I didn't know Buddy the Elf back then, but when Buddy the Elf came out, that's kind of you. So I agree with Ryan on this.
All right.
It's just there's so much energy there.
I was talking to Marty on the phone the other day. This was in October, and he was watching Hallmark Christmas movies. I've never watched a Hallmark Christmas movie ever in my life.
Well, we should do that tonight.
I mean, I'll pass.
Dave, it's so just healthy to have you here for me.
This is college football season. There's some great games tonight.
So I want to say this about myself on this podcast. So one of the things that's been interesting about me is I listen historically to kind of rock and roll, kind of almost negative music that has like NF or even Sister Hazel has some almost bitter music, and I do that almost to balance it out. But the same is true for my friends. So many of my friends are quite cantankerous, and two of them are here right now and cantankerous.
I mean, I'm consistently
but they're generous.
I'm consistently referred to by more than one person as a Scrooge.
It's true.
Dave, we're so similar.
I love Christmas on December 24th and 25th. Other than that, I'm okay with it.
Well, one of the things that I've preached on here twice now has been about lament and how every worship song in American church, it's all about winning and victory. There's never anything about lament, about suffering, and ultimately we have victory, so we want to balance that and everything. But it is really funny. I sort of am known as a little bit of a downer, but but sometimes you need that, right?
I think there's a place for both. I mean, we can all read Ecclesiastes.
Right?
Lamentations.
There's a time to mourn, there's a time to dance. There's a time for both, so absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes I just feel America just doesn't understand. There literally is a book in the Bible called Lamentations.
That's right.
Like, you're allowed to be sad sometimes.
I mean, I'm not.
It's Old Testament.
Yeah, I mean, like I love Thanksgiving. That's one thing that makes me excited about our Thanksgiving project.
Okay.
Like my favorite holiday, hands down, is Thanksgiving.
But
like, I'd rather
is that like kind of what we're talking about? Is that just like the massive positivity thing, or?
To me, yes. There's like this idea that Thanksgiving is a time to be grateful, but there's no, I mean, we gather together to ask the Lord's blessing. Like, I'm not going to sing that. That's not on the radio. So what do? You just play another month of Christmas. So for that first month, you can focus on gratefulness. He wants to be talked to so bad. It's like...
Wow, okay.
What's up?
Okay, we are on a podcast right now.
Oh, kidding.
We're literally with Dave Huey.
How we doing?
This is Al Dancy. This is
Al Dancy.
And Al,
I'm driving in the rain on the highway, so I would absolutely turn on the light inside the car, but I won't be able to see, and I'm old, and I already can't see.
well, I'm not showing you the picture. I'm just telling you so you didn't say anything bad. And I'm going to hang up now, and I'll call you after.
All right.
Oh, Al.
Al, the fourth podcast host today.
The fourth podcast host. If there was a way to do that, I would.
Okay, so you don't like Thanksgiving music, and I agree with you. Let me tell you what I love.
I don't like it. I just don't think it really exists.
I mean, but that doesn't mean the holiday doesn't exist.
Well, I agree. I love Thanksgiving.
I mean, so I tell you what I love about Thanksgiving. It's not commercialized. I think the food is amazing. There's a lot of football.
I thought you said it wasn't commercialized.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, like, I don't have to figure out what I'm going to buy Aunt Jenny for Christmas.
Well, there are events, right? There like Macy Day Parade. Whatever. Like, there's
But that's Christmas, though. That's still Christmas.
Macy Day Parade? Oh,
No,
sorry.
Macy is.
It's on Thanksgiving, but it's really about
okay.
Christmas.
It's really about the start of the Christmas
That's
season.
the start of the Christmas season. And so I don't think Thanksgiving is commercialized. The food's great. It's a time to hang out with family, to not have this like hanging over your head of like, what am I going to get? Like I said, Aunt Jenny for Christmas, or here, you know. It's just a time to just,
right?
It's less materialistic.
Yeah.
And I just like
More
that.
pure.
And I think there's no cheesy music.
Yes, that is one of my favorite parts about things.
Do you have an Aunt Jenny?
I don't. I'm not that dumb.
I just wanted to make sure. I was like, I don't remember ever hearing about this Aunt Jenny. And why do you always diss her when it comes to gifts? Anyways, all right. So during the holidays, did we ever get to this question? Why do you think people are more giving during the holidays? Both holidays.
Yeah.
All three, if you include.
Yeah.
What's the one?
Halloween?
No, the Jewish holiday.
Yom Kippur, is that what you're talking about?
No, the 8-day one.
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
Yeah. So here's the reason that I think people are giving in the holidays.
Ramadan.
It goes back to that whole, and it's just kind of where we started Hungry for Day, right? Like, we feel blessed. And, you know, Christmas is coming around, and what happens a lot of times is you're thinking about, like, okay, whose house are we going to for Thanksgiving? Are we fixing the ham or the turkey? And, like, is, you know, grandma fixing her famous macaroni and cheese or whatever that special holiday dish that you love eating? Like, that's what you're thinking about, right? You may have been thinking, like, am I going to get my year-end bonus this time of year? You're thinking about the blessings. And then you hear about, like, hey, here's someone that, like, is struggling this holiday season. And I think about that from a Hungry for Day perspective, and I'm bringing it back to Hungry for Day, but we're telling people, like, hey, for $35, you can provide a family a whole Thanksgiving meal just like you're going to eat. And I don't even know if people do it out of obligation. It's just kind of like, yeah, I'd love to help somebody out. I don't think people feel like, oh, man, I got to go help a family out this year. I don't think people have that attitude. It's just like, man, we've been blessed. Look, we're going to have this great big spread. And, you know, like, I know myself, I'm going to smoke a turkey this next week. It's going to be great. And it's one of the best things you'll ever eat, right? But then I think, like, well, I can go feed a family for $35.
Yeah.
And then I think that's why. Because we see our blessings, and it's very easy to say, like, let me help somebody else out in this time.
Okay. So at the end of the day,
Yeah.
when it's all said and done, and you are an old man, and you have no more life to give or movement to be able to communicate and do anything, and you're retired, and what do you want to see realize as a life's goal for hungry for a
Hungry
day.
for a day. So I heard somebody, and I don't remember who this is, so I can't even go back and quote it. It's not like I'm trying to leave this person out. The goal of any nonprofit should be to not exist.
Ooh, that's good.
And so I don't care if your nonprofit is about, maybe it's about, maybe it's disease prevention, or like us, hunger prevention, or like we're helping a community in Africa, or whatever your nonprofit is. Your goal should be to not exist anymore.
Now, let's move this into...
Because the problem's been solved. Not just to not exist because you don't want to do it anymore, not exist because there's no more need for you.
Right. You have taken care of
That's right.
said problem.
That's right.
How does that work for the church? I like that thought process even for the church.
Yeah.
I never have thought about it before. But does that work? Ryan, our resident liberal theologian, does that work?
I don't know if that description fits me, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I normally don't think about church that way. Although I guess all things considered, in Revelation, there, the church is not specifically mentioned in the final city, as far as I know.
Right.
So. Yeah, I guess we're just converting from being individual churches to one massive city church.
Well, there's a new heaven and a new earth.
That's right.
And throngs of people are worshiping. So I guess that is the point where there's no use, for the church.
I mean, I think it goes back to like I've had this conversation a lot recently. Like, what's the purpose of the church? I think once you figure that out, you can say, like, is there a reason for the church to exist in the in the future?
So, consider the church you're going to right now.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think your pastor would say is the purpose of the church?
I don't know if I want to put myself in his shoes, but
Well, based on your knowledge of how things run.
yeah, I mean, I think what the purpose of the church should be is to lead people to Jesus.
Okay.
To bring the kingdom of heaven to earth.
Okay.
So yeah, and I don't know if the church can go away until this earth goes away.
Okay. The new heaven and new earth thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And by this earth and by the new earth, you of course mean the metaverse.
Well, it's not what I had in mind, but it's kind of like we're sort of heading that way.
All right.
Good thing we don't have a dislike button on the podcast.
How would you challenge others to be generous? People who are listening to this, who are like, I don't know if I'm generous. I kind of want to be, or to be more generous.
Generosity is contagious, and I think generosity generates goodness, and generosity generates more generosity. And I think it's one of those things like, if you want to be generous, like, you dip your toe in. And I'm not saying you need to go out and say, like, hey, I want to make sure that everybody are we in Holden now? Is that where we are?
Yeah.
It's not to say I want to make sure that I can feed every hungry person in Holden this Thanksgiving season. That's a big task.
Yeah.
But I think, going back to our very first question on the podcast today was, who's a pastor that's impacted you, right? I mean, one thing that Andy Stanley says incessantly is, do for one what you wish you could do for many. And can I feed everybody in Holden, Massachusetts a Thanksgiving meal this year? No. But what I can do is I can say, like, I can go find one family that needs help this year. And I can make sure that they're able to eat a great meal this Thanksgiving. And I think it's, when you do that, like, not to pat yourself on the back, but it feels good to know that, like, hey, this isn't just about me. You think about like what you're passionate about. And, I kind of joked around about this earlier, but like I like buying new sneakers. That's my hobby, right?
Yeah.
And I like having like something that's stylish and new. But like, is it more important to me to have another pair of sneakers or to help somebody out this? And I think the answer can be both, right? Like, yeah, I can get a pair of sneakers for Christmas, but I can also go help somebody out this Christmas. And when you do that, you feel like, yeah, let's go do that again.
Yeah. I like that. I also like that you focused on Christmas there.
I'm just trying to play to my audience.
Oh, man. All right. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah.
And do you have any other parting questions for Dave?
Have you ever thought about how your organization there's this Russian nesting doll kind of thing going on where like you're about, people being generous, but your organization is also generous to like other organizations because like even though you are a nonprofit and like you said, nonprofit should exist to eventually not exist and all that. But I feel like a lot of nonprofits, like I've seen it out there where they're like fighting over turf or like, there's some of that out there, but it just kind of seems like your organization, it's like that doubly generous thing because you're generous to other organizations.
So there's a quote, and I should know who said this quote. Maybe you can help Marty. But there's a quote that says like, it's amazing what good can happen when we don't care who gets the credit. Because like me, I don't really care if like, I'm thinking about some, and I have these on my mind because I've met with these people in the last week. It's, there's an organization back in my hometown called the Pantry that's feeding people, right? There's one called Comprehensive Community Services that's helping people that are living in basically rent by the night hotels, right? These are people that are living in their car or they're homeless. They're trying to scrape together 25 or 30 bucks. Their family can sleep in a hotel room rather than in their car that night, right? Like, I don't care if Hungry for a Day or if Comprehensive Community Services gets the credit for feeding those families. It doesn't matter to me. But what I want to know is like, was there a family out there that was hurting that we could have helped and didn't get helped? So I think, I don't care. We're going to go, when I say like our goal this year is to provide 25,000 people a Thanksgiving meal. Now, part of that's going to happen through, Wachusett's, and I make sure, I don't know if I'm getting these names right, the Wachusett's Food Pantry, it's through the Friendly House here, right? But it's also these organizations back in Atlanta. We're helping organizations in Florida, in California, in Philadelphia, we're in Detroit. We're literally all across the entire country,
but
right?
What Hungry for a Day does, right? That can't be a large market, which is sort of like, you're sort of like creating these separate opportunities to support these other endeavors. Like that's rare, right?
I think it is. It's different because again, I don't care who gets the credit, right? And so if you go back to that 25,000 number, right? Like really, like there's going to be a few hundred fed here in Massachusetts, right? There's going to be a few hundred fed in Detroit. There's going to be thousands fed in Atlanta. There's going to be hundreds fed in California. We go across the entire country, but I don't really care who really gets and we're kind of both getting credit, right? When we help Comprehensive Community Services feed 30 families that are staying in hotels, then like that's great. If they want the credit for that, that's great. I don't care. And so like I think that's our goal is just just shine a light on people that are doing really good work and be able to fund them so they can do more of that work.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So thanks for having me on. It's great. It's been a good discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave challenged us to be more generous, and so we're going to challenge you to go on Hungry for a Day.
Yeah.
Not for.
So there's two ways. It's h4ad.com.
h4ad.com.
Or hungryforaday.com.
Or hungryforaday.com. And you can, and when you go on there, you can help with this particular project and become you can either help with one project or become a regular contributor to the Hungry for a Day community.
Yeah.
If you help this time, you do it by meals, right? Am I correct?
That's right.
You can give.
You can give a family of 4 a meal for $35. And I tell people, so like, how can I get involved? I say, hey, just follow along with us on social media, sign up for our email newsletter. And I think what happens is, we're announcing projects throughout the year.
Yeah.
And I think, eventually one's going to come along that's going to touch your heart. And you may say like, and maybe providing a Thanksgiving meal is not your thing. Like that doesn't get you excited.
Yeah.
Maybe you're like Marty and you don't like Thanksgiving. And so that just doesn't touch your heart. But maybe.
Where's the music at? Where's the music at?
We got together.
But yeah, follow along with us. And I think eventually the next year or so, you're going to hear about a project. You're like, man, that's pretty great that they're doing that. And I want to get involved.
There you have it. Please get involved. And thanks very much, Dave.
Yeah, good to be here.
Hey, on November 20th, or why don't you do the announcements?
You want me to do that? Oh, I have them right here. Look at that. Okay, so I'll do the announcements. Okay, so November 20th, we have a pastor prayer night. Where, how many pastors are we up to now? 22,
12.
23? 12. I thought we were in the 20s. Wow. Okay, we have 12 pastors coming here. They're going to pray for you guys and for the church, and so we're really excited about that. You can come and you can pray with the pastors, but the pastors will be leading the prayer, I think is how
It's
it will
actually
work.
12, not including the pastors in this church. So.
Not including the pastors in this church. Okay, so we have a little bit more than 12. So please be there for that. It's on November 20th. What was the time on that again?
6 p.m. on Saturday night.
6 p.m. Saturday night. Be here for that. Also on Sunday morning, the 21st, which by the time this podcast is airing, it will be this coming Sunday. We have our Chaffin Church relaunch, which we've mentioned a bunch of times. If you have missed that announcement, I don't know what kind of rock you're living under, but it must be a big one because
Maybe maybe they're a first time.
Maybe you're a first time listener, but we are relaunching, culturally. But we also have this brand new space that we're meeting in. That's part of the picture. We're going to have some new audiovisual stuff going on, and probably some new songs too. Marty's going to be preaching a little differently, probably, I guess, as well. So. Lots of things are going to be a little bit different, and that's why we were saying we are relaunching.
I actually have an
phraseology.
I actually have an exciting message based on something you have done. My entire message is an idea that you gave me. So I haven't told you about that.
Wow, we are going to have an interesting conversation after this podcast is over.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Then going a little bit further into the future, a little bit closer to where Christmas actually is.
Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle.
On December 19th, we have our annual Jingle Jam, which is where we have... actually, do you just want to describe it? Because you're so much more excited about this stuff than I am.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm
All right,
kind of
buddy.
a Grinch, so.
Take it away, buddy.
Okay, guys. So, this is basically what we like to call a family experience. It's a worship experience for kids and adults to come in and have a Christmas extravaganza.
And I want to stop you right there and say, I'm a person without kids. I've been to the I went to the 2019 one, and it was really fun for me. So,
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. So
Single, young, ladies, single, young, and he enjoyed it. So if you're single out there, check it out.
Yep.
It is a great time. I think it was written actually in Atlanta. Not like that's, and then we bring our obvious talent to the table in this room, make it happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's Jingle Jam, December 19th. That's all we have for announcements. And you know what? I'm going to bounce it back to you for giving.
Okay. We've talked about giving to Hungry for a Day. Please do that. If this podcast is something that's encouraging to you, or if it's not, we are thankful for you to come back to us and share with your giving, with your generosity. You can do that by going to chaffin.church/giving, or you can send in your checks to 155 Shrewsbury Street in Holden. That's always a valid opportunity. We have a mail address, and it comes right here to the building.
That's a thing. That's still a thing.
Still a thing.
It still works.
Still a thing. The Pony Express. And then finally, you can text. Any dollar amount to 84321. And if Chaffin Church is your church home, we're so thankful for your generosity. And if it's not, maybe this podcast is your church home. This is happening, and you have enjoyed this and been encouraged by this. And you will be encouraged because we're going to continue to do this even when we have a live stream, which is coming in the future. But we're thankful to you for that, okay? And we're going to continue to put what we like to think of as really good content and a lot of fun. So thanks for being here. Hey, this has been some good news.
Now go and give some out.